Only 2 minutes late this time, if assuming everything is working. Chuck got me all the panels entitled. Camera seems to be working. Can somebody hear me? We promised ourselves we would test this at 12:45 today. We clearly didn't succeed in doing that. So we're testing it now. Tim, Chuck, you guys out there? Anybody out there? Can you hear me? Alright, let me refresh. Okay. Completely lost my mind. All right. We've got some viewers. and look, I got a new chair for those keeping score of my squeaky chair. I borrowed this one. We're going to see if it works. It's got a nice headrest on it. All right, that's commercial, but I can hear and see. Okay, good deal. Oh, okay, got it. But everything's good. Sounds good. Video's good. All right. Yeah, just in time. You could be 10 minutes late, Perry, and you're still just in time at the Troll Lord world. All right, we're gonna fix this for next Tuesday. we're gonna get ahead of ourselves. Yeah, it actually is. It's a little more, solid than the chair I've been sitting in, but I think that's because I've been sitting in that chair for I don't know, half a decade or something. Yes, I did. It was time. It was time. That mop was beginning to push my glasses to the left and right, and when I'm reading, my glasses are askew, and none of that worked. Yes, Tim, it is. It's Wilson's, and I had to make all kinds of adjustments. He is not going to be amused at all. I borrowed this chair from my son, so I will hear about it come this afternoon. So there's something about an argument between him and my wife about his ability to unscramble an egg. I wasn't there for it. I don't know what's happening, but apparently tonight there's going to be a contest with scrambled and unscrambled eggs. I don't know what's going on. I just sit back, watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and enjoy the show. So. What more can you do? So we are here for the 34th GM's Tricks of the Trade. I don't know if we've done actually 34 shows on Tricks of the Trade. Probably not, but got to be quite a few at this point. But we've been rolling these things out in the newsletter for a good long while, kind of inconsistently in the beginning. We dropped off a little bit as the Troll Lords got completely swamped by all manner of goobly-goop, but we've gotten pretty consistent other than the holidays, the break there. We've been hammering them out once a week. So if you're not signed up to the newsletter, definitely do that. We send these things out on Tuesday and Wednesday. We head over here to Twitch to give a jabber about them on Thursdays at 1. Sometimes we're looking at doing some later shows, but we'll see about that as our schedules and our level of experience here on Twitch increases. And by that I mean mine. Keeping myself up to date with all of this is challenging, to say the least. But at any rate, we're doing Treasure again this week. I hadn't realized we'd already done it twice. There's so many things, that so many aspects to any one part of the game, whether it's treasure or experience or equipment or rolling up characters or new characters or old characters, high level, low level, monsters, whatever the subject matter is. RPGs are, they can be very simple games, but there's many moving parts in any role-playing game. So we may get some overlap, and we definitely had a little bit of overlap in this GM's Tricks of the Trade, as I was informed after we sent it out. So so there you go. We'll get that fixed. Someday I will, Perry. I will come to love technology. Though, ironically, my found myself using my phone. I got an iPhone, and I find myself using it when I don't need to. Sitting at a stoplight, I'm looking at the iPhone. Watching television, I start looking at the iPhone. I sit there eating breakfast, and there's my phone. So about 7 or 8, 9 days ago, whatever it was, I decided to back off the use of the iPhone, just leave it in another part of the house. I don't need it. And then the iPhone broke. What else? We've had printer problems. We had all kinds of Twitch problems on Tuesday. As soon as I decided to step back from technology, it seems to have a negative reaction to that. So maybe there's some AI out there that's hounding us all, making us be a part of the brave new world, of whatever it is that we are living in. That's what Davis says. He's on what's the other thing? Samsung. I think Davis is on a Samsung, and he's always bragging about that. And then there's something out east that there's some new kind of thingamabob. I don't know what it was. He was talking about the other day. I don't know why I have the iPhone. It's because my wife has one. Therefore, I have one. That's just the way that's going to work. Let me tell Jason to string it. I didn't. See if we can get Jason in. Jason Bay is one of the writers here at TROLLZAH Games, and he's done an absolute mountain of work for us. He, of course, wrote Amazing Adventures, does all of our Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition conversions, and all of that goobly-goop. And he's Skyping me about some licensing issues, but also, I guess, Christopher Tolkien. If you haven't heard, Christopher Tolkien died today. He, of course, a rather elderly gentleman who's J.R. Tolkien's son, and he was in charge, the gatekeeper of all Tolkien's intellectual properties. And Jason's, he mentioned now that that stuff's going to go flying out, and I think he's probably right. I think whoever offers, I'm not sure who's going to be in charge of the estate now, but Christopher he seemed to be a pretty draconian watchdog over the tone and everything else that went involved with Tolkien's works, which I appreciated. I'm a huge Tolkien fan. Silmarillion's still my favorite fantasy book, and the trilogy is absolutely fantastic. I thought that what's his name did a great job with the movies, the 3 movies, but then The Hobbit turned into this. I don't know what it turned into. Xena and the Warrior Princess or something. It wasn't. I didn't enjoy it. I know a lot of people did, but it missed the mark for me, and I'm afraid that as soon as Tolkien stuff starts rolling out and about and into the wild, into the wilderness, Lord only knows what's going to happen to it. So there's Jason just now. We were just talking about Christopher Tolkien dying, Jason, and how, like you had mentioned to me, that the floodgates are going to open, and this IP is going to be everywhere, and Lord knows how it's going to be presented. When I read Tolkien, when I read Middle-earth material from Tolkien, it goes beyond mythology, and it weaves this kind of historical epic tale that there's no axes to grind. It's really the tale of it in and of itself, and there's no parts of the tale that are overtly unbelievable. I mean, obviously it's unbelievable, it's fantasy, but it's nothing over the top when I'm reading Tolkien. There's no this, whatever it is. But I'm afraid that those days may actually be gone. Yeah, he did. Christopher did. Yeah, you're right, M5. He did a fantastic job. And there's at least 11 books I know that he kind of, scholarly books that he put together discussing all of presenting Tolkien's works and Tolkien's thought processes and all manner of stuff. Really good books. Some of them aren't readable like any novel, but they're absolutely fantastic books. He did a really good job. He was just a really good job gatekeeping all of that stuff. And I think he had his father's ideas at heart, and he didn't want to pursue just a monetary angle, but he wanted to actually present it or he wanted it presented as his father had written it. I think he did a good job. So we'll see what unravels or ravels. Maybe whoever takes over the the estate will do a good job. You never know. I have no idea who that would be at this point, but I do know that those movies made several billions of dollars. It's going to bring some high dollar offers. There is no doubt. Oh, there's no time like the present. It's troll chat, like Perry mentioned. We are here today, however, to talk about GM's Tricks of Trade and not my love of Tolkien and the various books that he presented and wrote. But we are revisiting Treasure, I think, for the third time now. We did a couple before Christmas and discussed various and sundry parts of Treasure. And I don't know, I think when I was writing the Tricks of the Trade the last week, the experience was when I was kind of putting notes down for that, I started having all these ideas on treasures and started putting notes down on treasures. And up first is potions. And potions are very interesting to me. For one reason, I never really liked giving them away. And I think it's kind of a visual thing with me. I couldn't quite see characters carrying like 10 potions. It's like the guy with the beer hat. It's too much. There's too many things going on with all the bottles of potions, and they pull this potion out and it does this, and they pull this potion out and it does this. But I've come to realize, particularly with the way I've kind of evolved as a GM, that potions have a particular value at the table. Your players can get it, and it's essentially just a one-off spell that the players are going to have that they can use at whatever strange opportunity should present it. They get the magic, they get the benefit of the magic, they get the benefit of the experience points, and then it's gone. So it doesn't bog your game down like, say, a magic item that can be recharged or whatever. And kind of the way I like to do treasure these days is cycle treasure out quite a bit. I don't want characters to get 4 or 5 or 10 items or whatever and just hold on to those items desperately as if there will be no end, or that's it. That is the end of what they're going to get. I would like them to cycle out. I'd like them to swap it out or give it away or it break, or they just put it in their treasure hoard and leave it, tucked away wherever that may be. The problem with that is you start, if they don't cycle, as you're trying to feed treasure into the party, which helps obviously with tons of things. It helps with experience point progression. It helps with tone. We've talked about this a lot. It helps with all kinds of stuff. But if they don't cycle through the treasure and you keep giving them treasure, then it's just going to pile up and mound up until you've got this almost comic amount of treasure. I remember years and years ago, I started running games with this guy, a good friend of mine. We worked in a meat market back at Merriman's Food World or something like that, whatever it was, Lovelace's, I don't know, whatever. Cutting up meat, but when he first started gaming with me, I was going to run the games, and he brought me this character sheet. And it was AD&D, and the first page was his stats and description and stuff. And the next 4 pages was just this list of magic items that he had. So I was just looking at it going, this is just absurd. This is beyond, this boggles my mind. But potions kind of help you as a GM circumvent that, because they get the potion, they drink the potion, throw the bottle away, and they move on, and they can't accumulate too much treasure. And there's obvious added benefit for the potion in that they're going to get whatever spell effect, whatever is happening, they're going to get that immediately, and then they get a dab of experience points, 200 or 300 experience points or whatever that potion may bring. It also has another kind of nice a twist that GMs can do, and I do this frequently in the course of combat if they have not in some manner secured that potion, or if they found it in glass vials or what have you. Heavy blows from a giant hammer or a knight's sword or whatever it happens to be can easily shatter the potion. And then not only have you given the treasure away, but you've cycled it out without the players getting anything out of it, so it becomes this equipment wastage thing. And we've talked about equipment, the value of equipment wastage before, to avoid killing characters or naming them or whatever it is. You can frequently redirect your damage to their equipment and destroy things that they have so that they might survive the battle, but the battle wasn't cost-free. So destroying potions is certainly a way to do that. So I've kind of in my latter years I've kind of come around to the whole potion philosophy. I like the idea of it. I think it's a great way to feed the game, experience to feed, to give the characters one shot, reactions to whatever it may be, and then also to cycle things out relatively quickly. See, Jason, it is also great fun when they're taking the beating and one of them discovers a potion of the gear that they had for years. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the coolest things about it, actually. I'm glad you mentioned that, Jason, because when they're when all is falling to pieces and they have nothing left and they're dying and whatever, and they start combing through their character sheet and then they find this potion or whatever. A perfect example of that, 6, 8, 10 games ago, whatever it was, the entire party had been annihilated on my Thursday night game. They're pretty high level, but they were all dead. I mean, most of them into the -10, so we were already in resurrection zone. And Todd had like 8, 9 hit points, I don't know, and he was up against 5 giants, and it was over. We all knew it was over. But as I'm cycling through the round, there were some wounded, whatever, and explaining what's going on, I could see Todd out of the corner of my eye. He was just combing through his papers for his character sheet, and his 15th level, so he's got, or 14th, whatever, he's got just 7, 8, 9 sheets of paper in front of him. And he put his finger up and looked at me and he goes, I pulled a horse out. And well, what are you? And he's got this magical horse that when he throws it on the ground as a command word, it turns into this war horse. So he did that, mounted the steed, and rode off of the battlefield pell-mell to get out of there and save his character. And not only was it super cool for Todd was super excited about it because he had saved himself from definitely certain doom. But it was cool for me too, because I'm not a huge fan of TPKs. It wrecks games, especially a game you've been running for a decade. So I wasn't so hip on the TPK that was rolling down the strip. But so Todd saved it from that, and potions certainly can bring that to the table as well, because they've got they've written it down. It's a feather falling potion. They've never had the opportunity to use it, but there it is when they're falling off the cliff 20 games later. Absolutely, good call, Jason. All right, so is that what that was? A figurine of wondrous power? I couldn't remember if that. I knew there's like a goat and some other things in there. I can't remember what they all were, but he certainly has appreciated that tiny little magic item more than he ever thought that he would, without a doubt. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we have done a few treasure tricks of the trade. This is our third, as it turns out, and I've already discussed what was number 2. Just roll with it. I apparently have already discussed. It's one of the things that I actually really enjoy doing. It's kind of a nice cap to an adventure or an encounter or whatever it is that you're doing to allow the players themselves to roll the treasure. Now, I don't give them the book, of course. I keep the book behind, whatever game system you're using, whatever book you're using. I keep that behind the screens and just tell them what dice to roll. Well, give me a percentile, roll a d20, roll a d6, whatever. And it takes a little while. It's not quick as they piece through and decide who's going to roll what and whatever. But it's kind of a cool way to just let people participate in that, and it's a nice cap to any adventure that you're running. And it basically what you're doing is extending the game time into the actual accumulation of treasure and throwing in a little bit of gambling in there too. Laying aside all role-playing, laying aside all whatever, all mechanics. Now you're just seeing what's in the hoard, so it's just a bunch of friends sitting around a table rolling dice and see who comes out with the best. But apparently I've discussed this one at least once before June's Stretch of the Trade, so we'll kind of roll over it. That's the skinny of that one. I will say that I've discovered the allowing players to roll their own treasure works insanely well if you are running a kid's game. Kids take this to a whole new level of playing. Obviously, most children haven't gotten into RPGs, the side of RPGs that's heavy on a role playing, that's heavy on plot devices and NPCs and intricate webs of whatever's going on. Most of them just want to kill stuff and take what they kill, take their stuff from them and see what they get. It's like an extraordinarily violent Christmas morning. So when you let youngsters roll their own, it really just... Did you just see that? It really just lets them I don't know, just make their own Christmas gifts. It's just like opening a Christmas gift. So definitely, if you're running young people at the table, give that a whirl again. So as always, when we're doing these GM tricks of the trade, if you have any comments or observations that you do at your table, or questions or anything like that, certainly put them in the chat room here. We've all been gaming a long time. Most of us have been gaming a while. We've got a lot of experiences, a lot of ways we do things, and definitely share them in the chat. It's good for us all to feed off of each other's energy and whatnot as we tumble and stumble down the road to RPGs. It's kind of the nice thing about role-playing games. It's the one reason that the main reason I'm really an RPG fanatic and not a board game. I don't play board games. I used to play the old Avalon Hill strategy games, a little bit different, but most board games I can't. I get bored relatively quick if you can't finish the rounds fast. I want something more, and that's why RPGs really is where I've landed, because there's so many facets to the game itself. So many things that you can do, and so many things you can not do, and still play the game and have a lot of fun. So, you guys all have these experiences, all have, table time. So, toss in your ideas, comments, questions, et cetera, in the chat whenever you have them. So that wanders us into trick of the trade number 3. So this is one of my favorite things to do with treasure. So I tend to run games, long games, campaigns, and larger adventures. But even at conventions, when I'm doing a one-off, I will frequently use treasure as we're gonna take some terminology from our modern day media. I see these terms used a lot. Weaponizing things. We're weaponizing everything. Whatever. Weaponizing sugar. We're weaponizing whatever. But you can weaponize your treasure at the RPG table by making it essentially a millstone that weighs down the characters, giving them something that they have to do to get that treasure. Not making it easy when they have whatever treasure it is. Not making it easy to get the treasure out back to town and to use it for whatever. Did I get your dog? I don't know what's going on out there. The hound dog's barking at something, and the little one's barking at the hound dog, and the old one just doesn't care. She's just staring at the two of them like they're idiots. But if I can get your dog barking, then we can spread that joy across the internet. I think they just headed out in the backyard. So, did you ever change your random roll for treasure? It's a waste to give a party a magical musical instrument when there's no heart in the party, unless they just go. Absolutely. I actually have gotten, been running games since whenever, and the random nature of the treasures actually is a little bit obnoxious. I've gotten to where I flinch whenever I roll. If I'm rolling it or if they roll it, I flinch when it's a spell. I mean a scroll, because the scrolls are going to be mostly useless unless you go in. I think we talked about there's a couple of tricks of the trade to go. Unless you go in and gerrymander it in some way, it's not going to serve the party and the purpose. If it's cleric scrolls or druid scrolls, if it's a higher level, maybe, but otherwise it's just going to sit there, because druids and clerics, of course, get their spells by prayer. And then the wizard and illusionist, you might get something and you might not. Kind of hard to say. All right, I gotta see what's happening out here. Hold on. What are you doing? All right. I don't know what that was all about. I'm sure it'll be back. But yeah, so I definitely when I roll scrolls, I frequently change that roll. And then there's like you pointed out here, there's all kinds of treasure in there that's just utterly useless to the party. And even its one-off usage are sometimes kind of obnoxious, a little bit, I don't know, this or the other. So I cannot count the number of times I have said to the group, okay, I'm rolling treasure, and I'm going to keep what I roll, and then a third of the way through, like, you're not getting that, something else, and I'll roll again, and then I end up picking it. It's frustrating, but Yeah, I definitely always, and I would recommend that to anybody. Don't let, it kind of falls back into that, the whole mantra of don't let the rules run the game. Don't let the dice run that either. It's back there, you got to make it somewhat interesting. And the other side to that is on the player's side, if you just play through 6 games, 4-hour sessions to go through and slay the white dragon or whatever it is, and you're slaying the dragon, and you get in the treasure hoard, and then there's 6 magical items that nobody in the party can use, it's disheartening, to say the least, and it's frustrating. And you don't want a lot of players frustrated. No one wants to play a game to be, so frustrated. So I would definitely change those roles if it presents something that's not going to be entertaining or enjoyable or in some capacity useful at the table. I did something with my dog. He's probably getting the bones or something. Yes, I have wandered into Trick of the Trade number 3, Perry, but I sidetracked and we're talking about random rolls now. Yeah, it's a good idea, Jingo. I mean, you just don't let the dice control what those magic items are, and that way, the nice thing about that, if you just pick it, you can get different things all the time. It seems like, and I'm sure if I looked at those charts in Castles and Crusades, my game of choice, that it's kind of stacked so that you have a less chance of getting certain items. So those items almost never appear, especially when treasure is rare. So you end up, odds are, kind of landing around the same groupings of magic items, and it's a little frustrating. It gets a little bit old. So handpicking them is a great idea, and even the coins, I've gotten to where I kind of quit on that too. Just kind of pick, okay, there's 6,000 gold pieces or what have you. I did not switch his graphic, didn't. And Chuck didn't even notice. Usually he Skypes me and lets me know. Yes, the millstone. Wait, is that a grindstone? Wait, I don't know. Isn't the millstone? Is a grindstone? There's a millstone. There's another one that I'm thinking of. Is it, Tim? Is the millstone the one that weighs you down? That's what I was going for. I can't remember now. I think it's the millstone that weighs you down. Flintstone. That's the other one. Red Flintstone. But there's one that weighs you down. I think it's the millstone. Okay, so it is. Yeah, I warned Tim when I sent him those tricks of the trade. I had like 3 metaphors going on to make sure that they kind of worked, because I got it jumbled in my head at a certain point. So I don't know what metaphor ended up on or where I was. You put your nose to the grindstone, and the millstone weighs you down. That's right. I think I had said grindstone. I said something about a grindstone to Mark one day, and he corrected me with the millstone. That's why it's rolling around in my head. A millstone around your neck. So why would you put a millstone around your neck? What's the point of that? What kind of strange and medieval mill and grind? What are they doing back in the Middle Ages? Clearly grinding stuff with stone. They should have used lasers or had the internet or something. So anyway, so one of the as a punishment. There you go. You see, that makes sense. And that ties in nicely with the trick of the trade here, because it's not so much that you want to use treasure to punish the party, but you certainly want to give it kind of a realistic aspect to it to make it so that the party has to negotiate whatever environment that they're in to get the treasure from point A to point B. And this can be obvious. The obvious one to look at is a trunk of treasure. It's you got 12,000 gold pieces. Gold is very heavy. The trunk itself is very bulky. You're either going to have to break it apart and put it into bags, or get some poles, run it through the rings on the side of the trunk, and carry this thing to wherever. Let's see. What do we got here? Tim has defined it for us. A heavy burden, as in Julie finds grandma who is crabby, a millstone around her neck. The literal hanging of a millstone about the neck is mentioned as a punishment in the New Testament, causing the miscreant to be drowned. Oh, wow. They went all the way to the end with that one. That wasn't just a punishment. that was carrying it through. Way to finish it off. So anyway, and this goes for magical treasure. It goes for expert weapons, and it also goes for those odd and end items. Like, I know I can't speak for other game systems, but Castles and Crusades has a relatively extensive list of items that you can find that aren't magical. They may be valuable, they may not be, and it ranges from musical instruments to jewelry to music boxes to all kinds of just odd and ends that people have that are extraordinary items is what we call them, and then there's expert weapons, of course. And all of these things can be bulky, and they can be, though they're worth money, if you sell them on the market, they can be hard to carry. So when you put a treasure together, if you're wanting the adventure to continue on, and you're wanting to make them reap a little bit more from the treasure that they've had, or stow a little bit more from the treasure, then give it that aspect. Give it another aspect that makes it difficult to carry, makes it difficult to even hide, makes it difficult to do anything with, so that now not only do they have to negotiate the terrain, whether it's a dungeon or overland, they have to negotiate monsters and NPCs and rogues and thieves and whoever else might see it or might want it, but they also have to physically carry it. I'll frequently use it to slow the characters down. I'll frequently use it to and just all manner of stuff to mess. I use rivers a lot, so they got to get it across the river. Treasure drops in the water all the time. Now they got to get it out of the water. It's just a lot. It adds a whole new aspect of the game, which is actually not unrealistic. It's one of the reasons that one of the tropes that you see in Hollywood old Western movies is kind of based in reality. When they were crossing the Rocky Mountains, and so many settlers were crossing the Rocky Mountains, and they had so much stuff that was too heavy, they had to push it out of the wagon and leave it behind. So you had just furniture in the strangest places out west until it was slowly disintegrated. So definitely take this concept and run with it. Using treasure as a millstone. Steve, you are a treasure. Can we award you to our... You'd be hard to carry around, though, unless they had a bag of holding. I don't know that I would I would classify me as a treasure. I certainly know my wife would not. So if you carted me off in a bag of holding, she would probably applaud greatly and maybe even give you some kind of award for carting me off into the wild blue yonder or wherever it is that you are headed. So, wait a minute. I want to see if I can get. What did Pete say? Pete's got a bag of holding, and I can't remember what he was going to do. He wanted to fill the bag of holding with water. Dang it! I can't remember what he was going to do. And I had a GM's question. I meant to put that up on the Capitalism Crusade Facebook page. It was a great question that he had. Fill it with bag of holding, flood something. I don't know. I can't remember. I'll have to ask him. It was really funny. I run a game for Pete and Ellis on the weekends. He's my son, and Ellis is Matt Golden's daughter, and she's actually our intern for the next 6 weeks. And those two have the most. They're younger, obviously, 19, 18, whatever they are, and they have this extraordinarily unique approach to gaming. There's this magic item that you can find in the world of Erd. And it's a small blue stone that looks a little bit like ice, and when you put it in the sunlight, it'll flake on either side of the stone. You can break the flake off and eat that flake for 1 to 2 hit points of healing. So it takes about an hour for it to flake, so you can, over an 8-hour period, get up to 16 points of healing. And if you've got 4 or 5 stones, you can heal a character relatively fast. I do this I created that magic item mainly to give, we didn't have any healers, just to have more healing at the party. When they got called a Nordstone, I think, something like that. When they got one at the party, Pete's first comment was, "Hey, why don't we get more of these? Or why don't we take this one and make a Nordstone farm, and we just put them all out in the sun, and we just farm them and sell them to people?" Son of a bitch. That's a great idea. It kind of goes against the spirit of adventure, but it certainly took the treasure he got and expounded upon it, or whatever. All right, so using treasure as a millstone, always fun. Certainly it adds a whole new level to your game that players will find both frustrating and entertaining too. So always recommend that you do that. Now, one of the things that I've started doing in the last, 7 or 8, 9 years is mixing my coin up. I've gotten so, I don't know, bored isn't the right word, but I want the treasure to have more something to it. So instead of just giving gold all the time, I slowly evolved into mixed coin. I would just roll it and say 5,000 gold pieces in mixed coin. However you wanted to do it, that's what you got. Because the coinage became kind of weird. But even that became a little bit I don't know, pedantic, is that the right word? No, not sure if that's the word I'm looking for, but I kind of changed that into just changing the coin itself into all manner of stuff. And I tried to start envisioning how the monsters would actually make it, transport it, keep it, or whatever. Now, clearly, some monsters can't change coin into anything, but what would a red dragon actually do with the coin? Does he literally want to sleep on this coin and make it a bed? Does he like the movement of the coin to do it, or would a red dragon actually melt his coin down into one huge heap of golden slag and shape a bed as it fits his body, and as he grew, to shape that bed again with, fire and whatnot. I kind of like this concept of whoever it is or whatever it is with whatever treasure it is, altering it somewhat. Obviously, it's got to feed in with the story and the monsters and the NPCs that you're running, but just to give it a different shape. I've used, obviously, ore, a fresh ore that's not been minted. I've used bars. That's a recent thing I did at a convention. I'm pretty sure it was Game Hall. They found long 8-foot, 6-foot bars of gold that they had to figure out. They were small, the size of a broom handle, but they had to figure out how to actually transport the gold. So that kept two of the players just busy trying to figure out how to bend it and cut it and shape it or whatever, so that they could actually get it off of the battlefield and to the end of the adventure. And one of my favorite things is gold dust or silver dust or whatever your coinage is, because the dust is easy to break the bag or whatever, and they have to take extra precautions to keep it going. Just anything that kind of shapes up coin, anything that takes the normal and makes it a little bit extraordinary, so that there's another element at the table that the players have to get their minds around and figure out to transport or figure out to do whatever. So it's one of my favorite things to do. Is just change the whole coin up, and it kind of plays into the reaping the whirlwind with treasure, which is our last trick of the trade. So let's take a breather. And does anyone have any questions or comments about where we've wandered so far? We're coming to trick of the trade number 5. The dogs seem to have quieted down, so all right. Well, without further ado, we will plunge into trick of the trade number 5. The whirlwind. I like your graphic there, Chuck. That's that's a good one. We actually something to swirl it. I don't know. Well, that's a good one. I like it. I have a question. Is this going to be a straight up fight or just another big bug hunt? What is that from? That's from Aliens, right? Absolutely love that movie. I sat down and watched Alien and Aliens not long ago, and they have just held up. Absolutely held up. Or is that Starship Troopers? That's Starship Troopers, isn't it, Jason? I got my movies off. Is it Aliens? Okay, I had it the first one. What am I thinking of? Starship Troopers, didn't they? At the beginning, they're fighting bugs, and that. Oh man, it's been too long. Way too long for that. I can't even imagine what my party would do if they came into a dragon's lair and find a giant blob of gold. Well, that leads us into trick of the trade number 5, Red Dragon. It really does. You got to be careful because, again, you don't want to frustrate players that they got this mess that they've got to deal with right now. But it's actually, I don't know. I can't sign up for live here or not. But it gives them a whole new level of crap that they have to deal with. On the other hand, if they can't deal with it, if you've got I don't know how much that would weigh, a lot. If you've got a 10,000-pound glob of gold, what to do with it could be extraordinarily frustrating. But you definitely want to walk that fine line between pissing off players and frustrating them and making something interesting. Perhaps on the dragon you wouldn't want all of the gold, carted into a bed of whatever, but maybe some of it. Of course, that goes back into the way when you're running your games, and this is, I always recommend that you build on this stuff. Try to envision what is that red dragon doing? Why does the dragon, where does that legend come from that they like to sleep on hoards of treasure? It's a great legend. It's a fantastic, look at an aspect of a creature that doesn't actually exist. It's really cool. But why? And is it a moving treasure? Does it like how the treasure moves beneath it? I really liked. So I didn't care for the movies that much when Bilbo finds Smaug in both the cartoon and in the movie. I loved how the treasure moved. I thought that was really cool. It was a really cool effect. Coins shifting every time Smaug or Smaug or whatever his name is. Every time they go this way or the other, or he goes this way or the other. I love the concept of it. But take that concept and run with it. Which is what I did in Trick of the Trade number 5, Reaping the Whirlwind. One of the things I like to do is make it so the treasure is not just piled there at the end of the adventure. Here's the room, open the door, there's the hoard. If whatever it is calls for that, fantastic. If you're in a mummy's tomb and that's how the tomb was built, and there's a treasure room and there's a room with the mummy and the room with the guards and whatever, that's great. It fits the adventure. But many creatures that would keep treasure or have treasure, it wouldn't necessarily be piled up in a heap. I can't imagine why an ogre would pick through a dead human's pockets and pull his copper out of the pocket and put it in a trunk. An ogre, I wouldn't think that an ogre would have any use for that. So where would this treasure be? How would this treasure be located? So I try to take the monsters and give a level of realism to it. One of the things we do in the Castle Keeper's Guide is we actually discuss the ecology of each of the monsters that appears in the original Monsters and Treasures, and gives them a little bit of context for the GM to take and run with. So look at your monsters and try to envision what that creature would do, if anything, to keep, hoard, move, collect treasure. One of the things that I did, and this kind of plays in with the Red Dragon, they encountered a white dragon. They slew one. They didn't know at times there was more than one. There was actually 3. And when they slew the one in this old abandoned keep in this snowy environment, they went in to found the lair, and there's this treasure, but it was all frozen. It was frozen in layers on the ground where the dragons had just kept breathing on it and breathing it. And the white dragon, I envisioned, didn't want to sleep on a mound of moving treasure. It wanted to sleep on a bed of ice and a bed of snow, something that was cold. Even so, it's a greedy creature. They're intelligent, highly covetous of all things. So they kept everything shiny. They did piece through what they had slain, kept everything that they liked, and put the treasure in their lair, and then froze it, breathed upon it until it was frozen solid. So when the players got into it, they slew the dragon. They wanted to get into the treasure hoard and get it, and found it frozen. And after a very little bit of investigation, they realized there was at least one more white dragon, and then they had a dilemma: what treasure to get, or whether to stay and fight the dragon, even though they were wounded. And it created the treasure hoard itself took on the aspect of a counter in and of itself, so that now the players are having to, do serious risk assessment as to whether they wanted to stay and get all of this treasure out, and risk having been horribly wounded from the previous battle, risk fighting a fresh dragon as it's coming in. Is it an old worm? Is it an ancient worm? Is it young? What's going to happen? They know it wasn't young because the track and sign that they picked up. So it just created this whole level, added an hour and a half of game time to an encounter which was for all intents and purposes over, but just gave it a whole new level of tenseness and that whole mess. So it's nice to try to take your monster, envision what it would do with its treasure, and make it that something in an encounter in and of itself, whether it's trapped or hidden or frozen or whatever it happens to be, whatever you can kind of envision is going to happen with these monsters or NPCs or what have you. Go for it. Go for it and add more flavor to your already flavor-packed game. Well, that's our trick of the trade number 5. We kind of rolled through these a little quicker this week because obviously I repeated myself in one of them, so so we've really only had 4 new tricks of the trade. But if anyone has any comments, obviously throw them out. I think treasure it's one of the aspects of the game that I love a lot, and it's one of the aspects of the game that I don't like a lot. Gold, when characters have 60,000 gold pieces, I can't, it's too much, they won't do anything with it, and they sit in trucks and bags, or they've got it in a bag of holding, so there's no amount of equipment damage that I can do to kind of bring that horde down. I don't really allow buying and selling magic items, so, I mean, you can sell it, but it's not really encouraged. They rarely can buy one, so the motivation to sell one has to be purely fiscal. So if I give a lot of magic items out, it can just, I don't know, it can leave a weird taste in the game, the whole 9 yards. So with me, it's love and hate, because I know players want it, and I also know that it certainly can help propel the game forward, experience points, tone, all of that stuff like we've talked about. And so for me, it's kind of a love-hate relationship with treasure. I like intelligent monsters with personality quirks, especially towards their treasure. Absolutely, and so many of the monsters are intelligent in these games that there would be some kind of machinations behind the way they keep it, what they keep. They may not want gold, maybe they don't like it, so they top it. There's all kinds of cool things that you can do when you dive into it and just give your monster. And most games don't have a lot of ecology built around them. If you get our monsters and treasures, you have a little bit of ecology, but develop your own. I mean, go with it. Just figure what this monster would be doing with this or with that, and why it would do it. Not everybody likes coins, right? This is an invention. I think I mentioned this in the Tricks of the Trade. I think that a Lydian king was one of the first kings, not the first king to create coins. This is way back, 6th century BCE or 7th century. I don't know, it was a long time ago, and did it specifically because transport was going to be easy. So why would a dragon want coins necessarily, or an ogre, a Kyrene, or whatever it is? Why would a Remora want coin? Would it even know that there's coins out there? So yeah, definitely take the monster and run with that monster. Do you plan to expand the monster ecology section to go with the new images? That's on the table. Here's the problem: the Castle Keeper's Guide is it's going to be on a print very soon, and so we're going to do a Kickstarter on it and get the Castle Keeper's Guide back out, and that's where that ecology is. If we add all the monsters that are in the new Monsters and Treasures, which is of course all the monsters from Classic Monsters and the mythology series, and then just scattered beasts hither and yon, it's going to add. I got to look. It probably is very doable, and it would be a nice addition to it. But I got to make sure that it doesn't add so many signatures to the book that it knocks the book too close to that 400 page mark. The Codex of Air and the Castle Keeper's Guide are both 350 odd pages, and they're really, 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 really solid books. And we did one book over 400 and something pages without having special binding to it, and I was never really happy with it. I need to look and make sure that they smite on that book, but and of course we've got a gigantic book coming out with Jim Ward's book, but that one's a little bit different. But for the Castle Crusade stuff, I'm really, 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 really particular on the way it's presented. So we'll look. I think that we can get that in. Basically, what I'm saying is I don't want to add more than one signature to the CKG, 2 maximally. That's 32 pages, and that puts it at 380, I think, or something like that. But my guess is that ecology of monsters would not add that many pages. My guess would be about 8 or 9, something like that. It's just a couple of paragraphs on each monster. It just kind of covers. Gives the GM, in our case the CK, a little bit more to go on. But that's coming down the pipe very, very soon. One thing I do know that is going to be added to that Castle Keeper's Guide, we've been doing some ship adventures lately, and the characters are constantly purchasing passage on a boat, and we've got, 25 boats in the Castle Keeper's Guide. We've got their crews, the speed, what type of water it sells, we've got all this information on these boats. But what we don't have is how much it would cost to buy passage on one of these ships. And that's actually, the speed in that is what I need the most, so I can know what to charge them, number one. It's like when they go into a tavern, how much does the beer cost, or what to charge them, and number two, how long it takes them to get to point A to point B. So that's one of the things that's definitely going to be added to the CKG. But that's coming down the pipe. Jason Vey and I will actually be talking about that very soon, because he will be he will be part of that project. We will also, just to let people know, I don't know when nor how, Jason and I are going to talk about this, but we're going to take the Castle Keeper's Guide, and there will be a Castle Keeper's Guide, but for those people who don't play Castles and Crusades, we're going to have a GM's Guide. So we're going to strip out that stuff that's specifically CNC, which is maybe a third of the book. I don't know. We got to look at it. And then we're going to present that in one form or another. I'm not sure yet. Tim and I have been talking about it all week, and Jason and I will kind of dive into it in the coming weeks. As our schedules lighten up. Isn't that right, Jason? Lighten up, as we like to say. Well, I think I've rambled on. Yeah, exactly. I think I've rambled on quite a bit about Trick of the Trade. I'm not sure what's happening next week. We'll do a Trick of the Trade, of course, on Thursday next week at 1, and then we'll do Troll Talk. I think that's what the panel's called, on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. I can't honestly remember what we're talking about next week. I think it's, I don't know. I have no idea. Something or the other, but come by and join us. We'll be talking about something related to role-playing games, board games, or Lord knows, maybe we'll wander off onto the talking fields again. But and then next week's Trick of the Trade is something about players. I can't remember. But I will endeavor to not repeat myself in a Trick of the Trade this next time around. Yeah, Jason's got a huge pile of work on his desk, but we're working through it. We're almost, Gaxmore's off your desk, and Amazing Adventures 5E's off your desk. So what do we got after that? Star Siege. We got a few things after that, and I got a whole new idea I had yesterday for a brand new product. It's a great idea. I just love it. I want to run it by everybody in the company, and it will definitely land right in the Amazing Adventures bailiwick. So I'm rather excited about it. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, or if it's going to play out, but it involves Air and Amazing Adventures and all kinds of stuff. So I'm pretty stoked on it. Had the idea last night or this morning, looking at the Fury Road picture. Fired me up. Yeah. Yeah. This is a great way for Jason to find out what I'm fixing to dump on him next. Because Jason is he's become the guy who does the work, so it goes to him very, very quickly. All right, well, thanks everybody for showing up. I surely do appreciate you guys coming by, taking time out and joining us over here on Twitch, and we'll be back next Tuesday, and then again next Thursday. And look out for Chuck is running games this weekend. Tim is going to be coming out with a World Anvil, stream here pretty soon. Definitely check out what's going on over there on World Anvil. We've got Mountains of the Codex of Erd coming out, and getting uploaded maps, and now they're deep into content. We've had a couple of meetings on how to present the World of Erd, and I think the team has decided the way they want to do that. I think Perry, you're involved with that, but I think the team has decided the way they want to do that and make all of that happen. But definitely check it out, worldanvil.com. I think that's right, and see where we are. Bunch of Kickstarter updates coming out tomorrow, so we'll get everybody kind of squared away on that, and we will see you guys on Tuesday at 1 o'clock to rumble around whatever we're rumbling around next week. All right, thanks a bunch, everybody. Have a very, very great, good week, and have a very wonderful weekend.